Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Sorry for a big gap between the videos, but life gets in the way. Anyways, a quick update before we start, working on the e89. The plan was to put a welded diff into my E46 and take it out for a quick drive, but 330i CI, I think that's a CI, it doesn't really matter. For some reason it comes with a inside exhaust as one piece, so and in order to drop the diff on that car you need to remove the back box, the whole back box. I don't know if it was welded at some point or if it comes from the factory like that. Doesn't really matter. I need to drop the whole exhaust. I didn't have the gasket, so I decided to postpone it, order some gaskets, do some brakes, but I had this crash bar slash checking point. Yeah, decided to put this one on because the rear end was jacked, so why not? And that's where I discovered I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you can see it. Some cool stuff here. Like, I knew that there was some rust. You can see there's a small hole here. It's a bit crusty, it's bubbling, but I did not expect to find anything like that. So nothing terminal, very easy to fix. I just need to get it done at some point. The crash bar, aka checking point, whatever you want to call it, not as easy as I thought again. First of all, it took ages to remove the bumper. Well, the crash bar, the stock one. Not ages, but I fuffed a little bit with that. Yeah, it's not sitting quite well. You can see there's quite a gap and it's touching on this side. So I think I'll have to massage it a little bit to make it work. But yeah, it's a job for another day. Today, as I said, we're gonna work on the Z4, and I think I've got pretty much everything. If you remember, we pulled the old engine out and we need to swap the engine loom, the clutch, because that engine is from an automatic and part of the loom is different, so we'll be doing that. And in the meantime, I think my lens is quite dusty, sorry. In the meantime, we also need to, sort of one of the jobs in the ballpark while you're there. We want to replace the rear main because I think it's leaking a little bit, so you can see the engine was just sitting and it's accumulating oil at the back. Not great, so I ordered a new one. I'm gonna replace that, and hopefully, I mean, I'm being optimistic here. I'll try to get as much job as possible. Well, get it done today, but realistically, I don't think we'll be able to drop the engine today. So again, I don't know what the plan for the video is. Depends on how I feel and how long it's getting. But I'll try to keep it as short as possible, on point as possible. So a few things on the BMW engines, cars in general, I suppose. Things that are new to me. Well, one major thing is this pressure clutch plate. You can see these springs, and what they do, they kind of adjust the clutch plate so it feels the same when you press the pedal. The pressure is kind of the same. As the clutch disc wears out, it becomes thin, and that's where, like on a normal car, you thought, oh yeah, the biting point is changing. On a BMW, the biting point stays the same, but you have these things and it keeps the whole thing sort of preloaded at the same distance. Hopefully I'm explaining it correctly, but if not, apologies for that. You can correct me in the comments. But a bit of a problem with this clutch is if you just unbolt it, it's gonna fully unload these springs. If you want to put it back on, that's where it's gonna well, be tricky because you won't be able to put the bolts back in, and you need to preload it back again, and you need a special tool. BMW, didn't know that before, but I don't have any special tools. Well, I bought only the clutch alignment tool because I'm not a big fan of fuffing around with the engine, trying to well, first of all, just eyeball the clutch, and then yeah, it's a nightmare getting the engine with a misaligned clutch mate with the gearbox. So I decided to spend, this is £9, again a little bit too expensive for just 3D printed piece of plastic, but it is what it is. Again, if you're looking for an alignment tool, clutch alignment tool for this one, this is a 22 spline, and I'll try to find the engines that share the same pattern, but you can just count the splines. There are 22 splines. I think this stud, I don't know how long it is, but from what I can tell, it's about 2 centimeters long, so it just slides in. It's a bit snug, but that's how it's sitting. Anyways, today we are gonna try to remove it without using any special BMW tools, and hopefully we can preload it and put on the new engine without any issues. So that's a plan. Let's get on to it. Oh, first of all, we need to remove the crank position sensor. This is a T25. Just put it in. Different people have different ways to remove this seal. I prefer 2 screws just carefully tapped into the sides, and you can just like pull it this way. Again, as I said, everyone has their own preferences. If you do this method, be careful not to score the crankshaft or the outer walls of the well, the engine block, otherwise it will be leaking. So do it at your own discretion. Apply common sense. Well, maybe don't use this method on this engine. Usually it just works, but well, learn from what I do and don't do it. Let's see. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Basically, there is a wall, well, a plate behind it. Well, it's just part of the engine block, and I scored it a little bit, but I don't think it's gonna damage anything because the finish on it, it's not polished. So as long as you don't score the outer ring of it, it should be all right. I'm just gonna do it, but yeah, be careful. And it's very hard to drill through, so if you want to go and just tap into it, it's going to be difficult. That's why I had to drill a pilot hole and then use the bolts. But as I said, be very careful. You don't want to do more damage. As I said, I don't think this little thing is terminal, but only time will tell. And you can say that I'm an idiot in the comments. That's all right. Very acceptable. Anyways, the new seal is not an original one, but it's not the market one, but this brand is relatively good and well known, so we'll try to get on and see how it does. And you can see like there was a little bit of oil here, that's where it was kind of leaking out. So yeah, I'm not regretting replacing it. That's how it comes. It's nice little plastic, I don't know what to call it, like thing that helps it to keep the shape. There's actually no direction. There's an arrow showing, I don't know, a direction, but it's a seal. I don't think a seal has a direction, and you can't even install it like this way. So and make sure that it's not binding and it's sitting properly, so there's no weird misalignment going on. Otherwise, again, you're risking breaking things. So we're gonna use the old seal to push the new one in. I just need to find a little hammer to tap it in. So the new main seal is seated. As you can tell, it's all nice and flush. I guess a few reference points. You can see there's like a little groove. You want this groove, or there's a groove and there's a stab. So you want the seal to be aligned with the stab all the way around. So this is like an indication that it's sitting properly. And again, you can always tell whether it's deep enough or not, and I mean it's quite easy to see and to tell if it's poking out. So you want it to be past this kind of line, and this is your trigger wheel for that sensor that we've removed. It's just sliding over, and you want to have a gap so this ring is not touching your seal. If it's touching, then it's not sit all the way in. Yeah, so reinstalling the sensor before we forget it, otherwise I might just leave it like that. Can happen. Let's give a go that self-adjusting clutch plate a go. I'm just hoping that the thing that I watch on on YouTube is gonna work. I mean, people do it, but people do it with removed clutch, and I think because I mean it's doable if you Google it or YouTube it, how to readjust or preload the self-adjusting clutch. You can do it on the bench, but the trick is you need to come up with a bunch of different stuff, spacers, whatnot. If it's sitting on the engine attached to your flywheel, it's kind of like it's a perfect rig for it. So I'll show you my theory, and if it works, it works, and you can try it. So we'll see how it goes. So after you compress the plate, you can tell it's all fully loaded. There are tiny little holes, I don't know if you can see it, but in those slots. I'm trying to bring more light with my phone, but I don't know, it's not working. Anyways, in these slots you'll be able to see another plate with round holes in it, and that's the plate that you need to try and turn clockwise. That is the preloading plate that kind of holds that pressure on the clutch plate. I might be explaining it a bit backwards or not entirely accurate, but this is what you need to be doing. So you need to move that thing clockwise, and that's kind of gonna release that preload or reset the preload. And once you get as far as you can, try holding, put something in place that holds that thing and release the tension. And it's easier said than done. So let's see if we can do it without breaking anything. The worst case, we will have to buy a new pressure plate. Okay, I've pushed the springs as far as I can get them to go. I don't know if it's far enough or not, but it is what it is. I think this one got stuck. Hold on, before I release anything, just want to make sure that, I mean, ideally you want them to be like very, very compressed. So I think I have about 2 mils of free travel, but it's really hard to tell for sure if it's enough. I'm doing it for the first time, so guys, don't get too crazy about that. But anyways, I think it's in a relatively good spot. So the trick is though, if you start releasing the tension, the plate will try to twist it to a place where it wants to connect with the clutch, so it's gonna try to get to that position where it was before, which we don't really want to. So I'm using this punch to hold this whole contraption in place, and hopefully we can make it work. I want to turn it a little bit here. So again, just use it as a bit of a leverage, so you want to make sure that it's not gonna go anywhere, and hopefully by releasing this tension, we can keep our plate exactly where it used to be. Well, not used to be, but where we put it before. And in theory, if I let it go, it should stay where it is. Yeah, okay, hopefully that will be enough for us to put the pressure plate back on, and that will be the end of our journey. As you can see, well, the end of our journey, I'm being overly dramatic here, but as you can see, this one is very compressed, this one not so much, this one somewhere between. As I said, I'm doing it for the first time, and I don't know if this spring is just a little bit wonky or something. This one is good compression here. This one not so much. This one is, I'd say, looking good. So in terms of visual reference, this is what you want to be aiming for, not this one. Again, I'm not 100% sure that worked, but I can tell that you can see there is a bit of a gap here. So I don't know if it focuses. Yeah, it's there. So you can see we've made a little bit of a gap, and I hope that this gap is enough for us to mount this pressure plate back on. Well, I think there's only one way to find out. I'll just get it off and see if it's, well, gonna back on again on the new engine. Fingers crossed, guys, fingers crossed. Let's do it. Got only one bolt left. I know it's just sitting on the dowel. Just need to get off. Yep, nice. Okay. Exactly what I didn't want to happen. That punch just fell off. The clutch itself looks brand new, like literally brand new. There's a bit of a thing here. It fell off. I don't think it's gonna affect anything, to be honest. But maybe I'll replace it, I don't know. Self again looks pretty much brand new. No hotspot, it still has the little marks here, but overall, I mean, the factory, you can hear it. The surface is not absolutely flat. I mean, there is some clutch wear, but other than that, it's brand new flywheel, which is awesome. We just need to get it off the car and we'll be good. Car. What am I talking about? Car. The engine. Oh. Oh. It's just about... Oh, this is a little bit annoying. Well, sometimes you have to just improvise. So I ground it off just a little bit so it fits straight through these little holes and it's sitting perfectly. Time and money saved. What kind of magic is that? Perfect. Okay. And this is the last one. Okay. There we go. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. Pretty much brand new. Very heavy though. Very heavy. Next step is a little bit less interesting and just kind of more tedious, is getting all this loom, well, at least stuff that is sitting on the right side of the engine, well, right is under the manifold, and get it all disconnected, because this is what we need to swap onto the new engine, because as I said, the wiring between the auto and manual is a little bit different, so that's why we're swapping things around. But other than that, I think we off to a good start. Ideally, if we can swap everything around today, maybe tomorrow we can put the engine back into the car and maybe give it a crank. That would be awesome, wouldn't it? Cool. Right, let's start on the wiring one. Okay, there's another bolt here. Well, nut, which is probably a 13. Goes from the alternator onto the starter. So the reason why I'm disconnecting it from the alternator is because I know that it's gonna be sitting on the starter anyways. So this way, just need to undo this nut, and hopefully it will be easier to remove the whole thing. Yeah, you can see I can now. Well, let's pop the nut back on so we're not losing it. Yeah. So the whole starter is looking something like that. As you can see, this thing, all in one piece, and you know that it's sitting right there. This one goes onto the alternator, and this one, if I remember correctly, I need to rewatch one of my older videos to see where it goes, but I think this is just the positive terminal from the battery. I spent a little bit of time with the wiring loom, just tracing, well, every sensor where it goes and how it's routed, and basically this junction box, we can keep it in place. The only thing that we need to disconnect from it is, hold on, where was it? I think it was on this loom. Oh, yeah, there it is. This little thing, and it's very easy to just slide it off. It's mounted onto this little peg, nothing super crucial. The rest, as far as I can tell, stays on the block, and that means all these sensors that I just unplugged, your NOx sensors stay plugged, your crank position sensor plugged, your oil level sensor, all these sensors can stay plugged in. You don't need to remove that, as far as I can tell for now. Things that you need to remove though, as I said, the throttle position sensor. You probably don't even need to remove the, you might want to remove it, but I don't think it's necessary. The alternator, you can keep it plugged in. Then you're kind of trying to go around and see where it's all connected. So right now, from the junction box, the fuse box, you go in, you go under the manifold, you disconnect this thing, and then it goes round. You can see there's another big connector that goes into the ECU. Let me spin the engine. So after that, it does go into this junction box. Let me get this one off so we have a little bit more room. I think the junction box is connected to the engine with these Torx bolts. There are two of them. One is here, the other one is at the bottom. Goes around. Good old cable ties. It goes onto the turbo. Hold on. Yeah, it's sitting. Probably it's boost solenoid or something. similar, so disconnect that. It's very oily. We need to fix that in a sec. I don't want any grease on the new engine, but you need to disconnect this sensor from this vacuum. It's not vacuum, I think it's the, actually this is the boost pipe. So we need to get this thing unplugged. Sorry, everything is very oily after I touched that sensor. This one, again, this is probably, I would say, this sensor for the fan. This is your junction slash, I presume, this is where the thermostat is sitting. Just a wild guess. Again, right now I'm just going off my overall knowledge of the engines, different engines, not just, well, BMW is a very new brand to me. So we have everything unhooked here. We need to undo this cable tie. We need to, where does it go? I think it goes somewhere. It goes somewhere at the bottom. I think it snakes all the way down to the, I assume, water pump. Yeah, it is the water pump. I put it. Yeah, this is the water pump. So all we need to do is basically disconnect this junction box from the engine, and as far as I can tell, it will free the entire loom. We might want to get to, well, this is T25, I assume. I don't know if you can tell, but there's a little bolt holding this coolant junction together. As I said, it's probably the thermostat, but don't quote me on that. Everything else looks pretty good here. I said a few more cable ties, but it's not very factory. Oh yeah, I totally forgot about these little guys. Your camshaft sensors. Again, trying not to break anything. Don't want to rewire these. Right, yeah, you need two hands. And very oily. You can tell that whoever worked on this engine hasn't replaced, I guess there must be some kind of like O-ring or seals behind these, so everything is caked in this old grimy oil, which is not great. We'll clean this up a little bit. Right, so the junction, let me find the right socket and I'll come back to you in a sec. E8. Yeah, I don't think we can get to the other one without removing this plastic bit. It's in the way. Okay. Anything else there? Oh, the 230s. So the other one is next to the first one. It's a little bit on the left if you're looking at it straight on. Okay. Now we can still coolant in it. Yeah, now we can get to the other bolt on the junction box. Again, E30. If you're not sure, I missed out first one. Yeah, just loosen it and snake it out, just like that. Just like that. Okay, get in there. Oh, this is the hose that is sitting in that junction. Oh, right. All right, I need to cut the cable ties. This is what you want to end up with. There are two, well, one big plug that goes to the ECU, then there's another, no, not this one, another plug that goes in the ECU, and the rest is just a bunch of sensors and the fuse box. So this is the loom that you want to replace if you're doing the manual to auto. Well, not conversion, I guess conversion as well, but if you're swapping a previously automatic engine into your manual car, everything else can stay on the engine. I put the wiring loom back in, everything went all right. I still need to put this nut onto the alternator, well, not to forget about that. Little things that, as I said, things that I would find during my little installation process. So first of all, the starter. The starter is a pain in the butt to get into this position. It looks like it's got lots of room, but all this wiring, it's just in the way and it's really hard to move it around. So I ended up removing this cable. If you remember, I said that I would keep it on the starter, and I left it on the starter just to kind of like make it sure that it's all in one place, and I know exactly how it went in. But it just, well, it was a lot more difficult to keep that cable on the starter, and yeah, basically I removed the cable and reattached it once the starter was in. Anyways, as I said, it's a very tight fit. There is a reach over here. I don't know if you can see, like this one, and there's a tiny bolt on either side of the starter, well, 2 bolts, and it's almost hitting it, so it's very difficult to cut. You need to move it, and it actually, like, even removing the starter is really difficult. So I don't know how would I do it on the car. It's one of those jobs that probably would require removing the intake. I guess you can remove it, but it's just so fiddly and difficult, unnecessarily difficult. Anyways, other than that, there are a few differences that I've noticed on the engine, and I think they come from being an automatic car versus a manual. This evap system goes into your evap canister, throttle, and in this case, this is the manual setup. This is it. On the automatic car, it's got an additional port, and it goes all the way around the engine, loops around the front of the engine, goes down, and this is where it's going. This is the port. On my manual car, I don't have it. This is how it looks. It just sits like this, and this port is basically shut down. On this one, however, the top cap is slightly different, and again, I don't know why. Maybe there's an extra thing for the automatic box to cycle some evaps or whatnot. I don't know, but I think this is for it. I decided not to swap it around because it's kind of like difficult to get to, and another reason was that that pipe that goes around was very cracked and perished, so I would just blank it off. In the future, if I need it, I can always come back, buy a new pipe and just reconnect it the way it was designed. I have that solenoid, the evap solenoid that's attaching on the other side, so attached on the other side, it's fine. Little cap, no big deal. Another thing that is different is this coolant hose. So you can see this hose goes around into the water pump, and it also connects to the oil cooler. This is oil cooler, I checked it. So it goes from the oil cooler into this pipe, and the pipe goes into the water pump. On the automatic car, you have this extra extension that I suppose, again, just requires for the Otterbox maybe extra cooling, I don't know. But on the manual car, this is it. This is just a simple hose two piece. So you've got big hose that goes to the water pump, and then you have a small hose that goes onto the oil cooler, and that's kind of it as far as the discrepancies between two engines. As I said, these engines are identical. The cars are from the same year, right-hand drive, UK cars. The only difference between them is one is auto, one is the other one is the manual, and from all the part numbers and dates stamped on them, I think they're just like 1 month apart. So I don't think that's like a separate revision when BMW decided, oh, we need to make something better or whatnot. So it's all the same. Even the trigger wheels, I wasn't sure if they were the same, because maybe, well, I mean, in theory they should be the same. The principle is the same. It doesn't matter what transmission you've got. But I wanted to double check, and the part numbers are the same on automatic and the manual engines, so should be all good. I'm not sure about the starters. If you have an automatic starter, again, in theory, shouldn't be any different, but then won't quote me on that. My engine, the new engine, didn't come with a starter, so I cannot double check that. In terms of routing the wiring loom, again, I started from the back. This is my reference clip, and I just started disconnecting and going around. Another way probably would be easier to start from the front and slowly kind of like removing the harness. Oh, actually, I forgot to put this clip back onto the manifold. I think it's supposed to be like this. Yes. Yeah, but other than that, it's very straightforward. There are a few plugs that I think on the car. Well, this is for the AC. One of these is for the MUF sensor, if I remember correctly. Anyways, I think all these are for the stuff that is still on the car, because everything else is plugged in. This is for the gearbox. Yeah, as you can see, everything is nice and plugged. So the next step is to lift the engine a little bit so I can put the flywheel and the clutch on it, and yeah, hopefully we're gonna be good to go. Flywheel bolts, hold on, I bought a new set. I'll show you the part number if I find where I put the, oh yeah. So this is the flywheel bolts. You can see the part number. This is original bolts. They weren't that expensive. For the flywheel bolts, however, I decided to go with just normal hex bolts. They are a little bit stronger. The tensile strength is stronger. The torque spec on the pressure plate isn't that big, so I don't think it's going to be an issue, and I'm going to put some Loctite on them. Very simple reason. The original bolts, single bolt for the clutch plate. It's 7 quid, 8 quid almost, for a single bolt, and you need 6. So call me stingy, but we'll do the same thing. And then the manual says that those bolts are not stretch bolts, so technically you can reuse them, but you need to reapply the, well, the manual says to replace the bolts, but they're not stretch bolts. You can reuse the flywheel bolts, but you need to apply some Loctite, blue Loctite. The pressure plates, manual says to replace them. Technically I'm replacing them, but with not the OE bolts, so I don't think it's gonna matter. At the end of the day, the tensile strength is the same. Well, this is slightly higher. Yeah, everything else should just fit right on. Yeah, oh yeah, the evap. I think I showed you guys that it's got an extra port. Yeah, Sorry, my brain is a bit... I just had a massive mug of coffee, so I'm at 200% speed right now. Yeah, so as I said, almost everything is ready. I'll just gonna try to reposition the crane, get the engine in the air and start attaching the flywheel. So let's see how it goes. The torque spec on the flywheel bolts is 77 pounds plus minus 5, so I will go with 80 pounds. It says if you're reusing bolts, we're using new bolts, but I'm still gonna apply just a smidge of blue Loctite just to be on a safe side. So we're gonna go on again, sort of like star shaped pattern. Right now I just hand tighten them, and I'm gonna go on this, as I said, star shape pattern, just applying a little bit of torque, but not too much. Now the clutch is going this way, as far as I can tell. So it would make, I guess it would make more sense to put, no, this way it's not. Okay, guys, there's only one way the clutch can be installed. If you're trying to install it the wrong way, it's just not gonna sit. So thank you, BMW, you made it very easy. Right. Okay, again, remember, star pattern, try to follow it. So this is a 1, 5, 6. And just like so, the clutch is back on. So our little method of preloading the clutch plate and spinning this self-adjusting mechanism actually worked out quite well, and we didn't have to spend extra money for special BMW tools, which is, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love my tools, but if you don't have to fork out 100 quid for it, why not? Yeah. The next step, I think I'm off to a good start, and I'll try putting the engine back into the engine bay today. Okay guys, mission abort. As you can tell, I'm not very happy. Well, it looks like I found why the engine might have been that cheap. Yeah, not great news, not great news. Basically, I was about to start dropping the engine back in, and I decided to give it like a small clean. You can see like lots of caked oil, like weird where it was coming from. So you can see there's a tiny witness mark. I don't know if you can tell it on camera, but the pan is cracked, and I think this is where all the oil just was coming from. I don't know if the engine is styles, but we definitely need a new oil pan, which is not cheap. And I mean, in theory you might say, oh, it could have happened when the engine was removed or while it was sitting on the pallet. Yes, but I don't think so, simply because the amount of oil in this area, it just shows that it was just gradually kind of like accumulating here. Yeah, I don't know if the bearings are toast or not. I'm gonna open the drain plug and see if there's any oil left, but yeah, this is probably the end of this episode. Oh well, I'll drain the oil and I'll show you if there is any oil in it, but not a great day, not a great day. Yeah, that's not a lot of oil. Oh, great stuff. Awesome. This is just awesome. You know, while we're here, I might just unzip the oil pan just to have a look inside, see the damage, but as you can tell, it's absolutely dry. Well, it's not as bad. A lot of this white stuff is not metal shavings, it's just the oxidation from the block that fell off when I removed the pan. And the pan is clearly damaged. You can see there's a crack in there, and the moment you tilt the pan, you can see the oil is dripping down, so the pan is not good. Other than that, as I said, all this white stuff is just the oxidation from the block. The oil itself, don't see any signs of metal shavings or anything like that, which is good. Which is not so good is the oil pan and the infamous chain guide is due to be replaced, but I don't think I will be doing it right now. I mean, the chain and everything, I guess it would have been ideal to put it on a stand, but I don't have a stand, and as you can tell, the engine hasn't been maintained properly. It's got a lot of old oil just like this build up, means the oil hasn't been changed regularly or not as often as it should be. Not the greatest sign, but not the end of the world either. Everything else, all the channels, I don't see any metal shavings, and the oil filter was also clean, as well as the pickup tube is also remarkably clean. I mean, clean as of no foreign objects. Yeah, it's a bit grimy, but I guess it's not the end of the world. I'll have to find a new pan. I don't know how much they go for these days. Probably, I mean, it's a BMW. I don't think it's going to be cheap, but nothing we can do right now. I'll put that old oil pan back on and park the engine on the ground again, and yeah, we just need to order a new oil pan, and hopefully, annoyingly, I cannot take that oil pan, I mean, from the older engine, because the oil pan has a massive hole in it. So annoyingly, I have two engines, which nothing I can steal from. It's so frustrating. Oh my god. Anyways, I expected something like that, and actually, honestly, I don't think it was intentional. Like, I don't think if it was no starvation, everything would have been covered in metal shavings and stuff like that. But I think that thing could have happened while it was sitting on the pallets, maybe while it was transporting, or while I was just messing around with it. I don't know. Honestly, it was sitting on the rubber on the tire, so I don't think a tire can do damage like that. So I assume that it could have been damaged well, I honestly don't know. I don't want to blame anyone. It is what it is. As I said, the engine was a lot cheaper than they go for, and yeah, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. So this is one of those examples when sometimes it's I'd call it a half win. So I'm gonna put this old oil pan back on just to keep the engine from all the dust and stuff flying around that I have in the garage. It's not the most clean garage, and yeah, as I said, more expenses. I'm not gonna be doing the guides, but as I said, it looks like, I don't know why they actually, like, you can see there's a little bit of play in it, like it's, if it's not even tight. Let me grab well, just a socket and see if I can tighten it. But yeah, it's a bit loose. You can see I can move it with my finger, and this side as well. I don't know, maybe it's by design, but I doubt that. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for staying around. Thanks for all the recent subscribers joining the channel. Yeah, as I said, I'm just tinkering with cars. I'm not a YouTuber. I'm just documenting my journey, my mistakes, my failures, and yeah, hopefully it's not going to be a major setback, because literally I was so eager to drop the engine back in, but it is what it is. As I said, it was a gamble from the start, as well as the whole car was a gamble, and so far the gamble hasn't paid out. Anyways, as I said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, bye.